What we saw at Talladega recently was more than just a strong finish by a surprising name. It felt like the moment a lot of people were forced to reconsider who Cleetus McFarland really is in the world of stock car racing. For years, many fans looked at him as a YouTube personality who happened to love motorsports. But after his performance at Talladega, that label no longer feels complete. He did not show up, ride around, and disappear. He ran near the front, handled the draft, led laps, and nearly pulled off one of the most unexpected wins of the season. Now, only days later, another major development has pushed the story even further. Cleetus McFarland is officially returning to Talladega, this time in the NASCAR Truck Series, where he will drive the number 4 Chevrolet Silverado for Nice Motorsports, with Blues Hog as the primary sponsor for the October 23rd race. That announcement matters for a lot of reasons, and not just because it gives fans another chance to watch him on one of the biggest stages in racing. It matters because it shows that what happened at Talladega last time was not treated like a fluke. It opened the door to a much bigger conversation about where he fits in NASCAR, how quickly he should move forward, and whether he is starting to become something more than a crossover personality. Cleetus McFarland built his name in motorsports through a completely different lane than most traditional racers. He became known for wild builds, drag racing, big events, and a loud, entertaining style that connected with millions of people who may never have followed every lap of a NASCAR weekend. He made racing fun, accessible, and exciting for a new kind of audience. That alone gave him value, but recently the conversation has changed. This is no longer only about reach, popularity, or internet presence. It is about whether Garrett Mitchell, the man behind the Cleetus McFarland name, can build real credibility inside the stock car world. That is why Talladega mattered so much. Super speedway racing is one of the most difficult forms of racing to truly understand until you watch it closely. From the outside, some people think it is simple because the field stays packed together and the draft keeps everyone in the fight. But inside the cockpit, it is chaos controlled by instinct, patience, timing, and trust. Drivers have to make split-second decisions at high speed while managing traffic, momentum, air, and survival. One small mistake can trigger disaster for half the field. That is exactly why so many people were skeptical about Cleetus racing there in the first place. Then he went out and made people pay attention. He did not look overwhelmed. He did not race like someone simply trying to stay out of trouble and collect experience. He looked engaged, confident, and competitive. He stayed in the mix, made smart moves, led laps, and finished second. For many fans, that result was the moment everything shifted. He may not have won the race, but the reaction to that run felt almost as powerful as a victory. A lot of people came away thinking the same thing. This was not just a creator visiting NASCAR for content. This was someone who may actually be capable of earning a real place in it. Of course, that strong result became even more important because of the controversy that came before it. Before Talladega, Cleetus had not been approved for a super speedway start in NASCAR's higher-level stock car competition, and that decision created a split among fans. Some people believed NASCAR was being overly cautious. Their view was simple. Cleetus brings attention, sponsors, energy, and a younger digital audience that motorsports is constantly trying to reach. In that mindset, holding him back felt like slowing down a valuable story that could help grow the sport. But there was another side to that argument, and it was not unreasonable. Talladega is not a place where a driver should be learning lessons the hard way in faster and more intense equipment. Super speedways are unforgiving, and NASCAR's approval process exists because danger increases when experience does not match the environment. A bad move in the draft can ruin a race for a whole field in seconds. So while some fans saw caution as unfair, others saw it as responsible. What made the situation more interesting was how NASCAR officials explained it. They made it clear that Cleetus was respected and appreciated, but they also drew a line. He had approval for ARCA, approval for trucks, and approval for certain other tracks, but not yet for the super speedway level they still felt required more evaluation. That is an important distinction, because it showed that NASCAR was not shutting the door on him. They were asking him to continue proving that he was ready. To his credit, Cleetus handled that response well. He did not publicly melt down, complain, or act like the system was unfairly targeting him. Instead, he took the more mature route and accepted that more seat time was needed. That response matters more than some people realize. When a driver is trying to gain trust from officials, teams, and the garage, attitude becomes part of the evaluation. A racer who accepts the process and keeps working often earns more respect than one who turns every setback into a public fight. Now the story moves into a much bigger chapter. The confirmation that Cleetus is returning to Talladega in the Truck Series is a major moment, not because it instantly changes every approval question, but because it gives him another highly visible chance to prove himself in NASCAR equipment at one of the sport's most demanding venues. He will be in the number 4 Chevrolet Silverado for Nice Motorsports, backed by Blues Hog, and that combination says a lot about how seriously this opportunity is being treated. This is not a random one-race deal thrown together for attention. It is a meaningful partnership involving a real team, a sponsor that fits the culture of the fan base, and a race that naturally creates visibility. Talladega already carries huge energy on its own, and when you add a personality like Cleetus to a nationally recognized team with sponsor support, it becomes one of the more interesting storylines on the schedule. That is especially true now, because he is coming in with fresh momentum instead of curiosity alone. The sponsorship angle matters too. In modern racing, attention and business value are deeply connected. A driver who can bring fans, engagement, and brand visibility creates opportunity not just for himself, but for teams and partners around him. Blues Hog stepping into this role is part of a broader relationship, which makes the move look more structured and more serious than a novelty appearance. It suggests that people around this deal see long-term upside, not just a one-week headline. For Nice Motorsports, the move makes sense because Cleetus offers something few developing drivers can bring all at once. He has an audience, he has momentum, and now he also has a performance result people can point to. For the sponsor, he offers attention that goes beyond a standard race weekend. For NASCAR fans, he offers a storyline that feels different from the usual development path. And for Cleetus himself, this is another test at a place where he has already shown he can be competitive. Even with all of this excitement, one thing has to stay clear. Returning to Talladega in the Truck Series does not automatically mean he has cleared every hurdle in NASCAR's approval system. That is where the next stage of the story becomes even more interesting. NASCAR officials have indicated that the path forward still involves evaluation, and a key step is expected to come through his run at Nashville. That race could become one of the most important moments in his progression. Why Nashville? Because approval is not only about whether a driver can survive one type of race, it is about whether they can show enough awareness, control, speed, and decision-making across different environments to justify greater access. If Cleetus goes to Nashville and turns in a clean, composed performance, that gives NASCAR another data point. If he shows that he can race smart, manage traffic, and avoid rookie-level mistakes, that strengthens his case significantly. Then if he goes back to Talladega in the truck and runs well again, the argument for broader approval becomes much harder to ignore. That is why this story has become bigger than one good finish. A few weeks ago, the headline was mostly about denial and skepticism. Now the tone is different. Now the story is about progress. He nearly won at Talladega. He has another Talladega start lined up in the Truck Series. He has officials still watching, but not closing the door. He has a next step at Nashville that could influence what happens after that. That is real movement, and with that movement comes more pressure. A lot of people are still waiting to see whether his popularity is ahead of his racecraft or whether the racecraft is starting to catch up. That is the central question. NASCAR does not need him to become an overnight superstar or a championship threat for this to matter. What matters is whether he can continue to show that he belongs, that he learns quickly, and that he can carry himself like a serious competitor rather than a guest appearance. This story also matters because it touches a bigger issue in modern motorsports. Racing series are always searching for ways to grow without damaging their competitive standards. Someone like Cleetus sits right in the middle of that tension. On one hand, he brings in people who may not normally watch ARCA or trucks. He creates conversation. He gives sponsors a reason to invest. He introduces a different audience to the culture of stock car racing. In a sport that constantly wants fresh energy, those things are incredibly valuable. On the other hand, NASCAR cannot ignore the responsibility that comes with putting drivers in serious equipment at serious tracks. The sport cannot operate on popularity alone. It cannot hand out every opportunity based only on reach, clicks, or fan excitement. If it did, the legitimacy of the system would suffer. So the balance becomes critical. Attention can open the door, but performance has to keep it open. Respect is earned through execution, not headlines. That is exactly why Cleetus has become such an interesting case. He is not just bringing hype anymore, he is starting to bring evidence. He has shown improvement, he has shown discipline, he has shown that he can attract sponsor support in a way that benefits teams. Most importantly, he has shown that when the race gets serious, he is capable of being part of the competition instead of just part of the entertainment package. If he keeps doing that, the conversation will keep changing. At first, people asked whether he belonged in the field at all. Then they asked whether he could survive on a superspeedway. After Talladega, some started asking whether he might actually be good enough to contend in the right situation. If Nashville goes well, and if he returns to Talladega in October and runs strong again, the next question may become even bigger. How much longer can NASCAR justify limiting his opportunities if he keeps proving he can handle them? So that is why this latest announcement is a big deal. Cleetus McFarland is not just coming back to Talladega for another feel-good storyline. He is coming back with momentum, with a respected team, with sponsor backing, and with a growing sense that his NASCAR path is becoming more legitimate every time he gets in the car. His recent runner-up finish changed how many people view him. His reaction to the approval process showed maturity, and the upcoming races at Nashville and Talladega could shape the next stage of his entire stock car future. There will still be debate, and honestly, there should be. Some fans will want NASCAR to move faster, others will argue that every step should still be earned carefully through ARCA and trucks before any bigger superspeedway approval is considered. Both sides have a point, but after what happened at Talladega, one thing is harder to deny than ever before. Cleetus McFarland is no longer easy to dismiss. He is turning into one of the most fascinating crossover stories in racing because he represents more than entertainment now. He represents possibility. If he keeps delivering clean races, solid results, and steady growth, the sport may eventually have to stop viewing him as an experiment and start viewing him as something much more serious. And if that happens, this recent stretch may be remembered as the moment his NASCAR journey truly began.